go down memory lane. Let's do it. I had a con artist advisor. He was a real character, as I'm sure you can imagine. Now I can tie any kind of knot anyway, reverse in a mirror, whatever you want. It was exciting to get to hold on to a piece of that when we wrap. I remember reading the script and thinking, I can't believe some massive A-list celebrity hasn't taken this part because there's so much to the character. I thought that he had this great duality that you're always looking for in a character, where he has one kind of ephemeral public-facing self and another inner self that he keeps, close to his vest. And there was sort of just a playfulness in the character that I thought would be fun to get to do for 6 seasons. I was just thrilled to have the opportunity to audition for it. I couldn't believe no one else that was a huge celebrity had taken the role already. So I came in and I read for it, and then there were studio tests, and I remember the studio got on board very quickly, and then I did my first test for the network. I was the creative's choice, but the powers that be up above really had their mindset that the actor they wanted was going to be in their 40s and be British. And so I had a lot of work to do in sort of restructuring that for them. I remember the first time I read with Tim, just immediately thinking to myself, that's our guy. Like that is him. If what we just did gets captured on film, and if we're able to maintain that in the writing and our performance for however long it is, I think we have something really special here. It's the job you look back on and go, even if you go to another great set, you go, wow, that was really unique. That was really special. I had a con artist advisor who was he was a real character, as I'm sure you can imagine. And he was there to teach me sleight of hand, to teach me how to pick a lock, whatever it was on the day, to break into a building, whatever it was. But I would be learning these things like an hour at the most before I shot them. It's so funny because sometimes I'll go to a jewelry store or something like that, and I see security get a little bit extra conscious and come up to the desk, and I'm like, hey, that was for pretend, right? I'm not gonna actually steal jewels or this piece of art from your store. We're good. Look, when I got that show, I had, I think, one suit to my name, and it was the wrong size. So it was such a sartorial education for me on that show. I learned how to tie a knot, basically. Now I can tie any kind of knot anyway, reverse in a mirror, whatever you want, bow tie on camera, got it, I'll maintain continuity. But at the time, I was learning about all these things as he was, and it was such a cool way to drop into the character because it informed the way he moved and the way he interacted with the world. It was exciting to get to hold on to a piece of that when we wrapped. Of course I was sad. It wasn't lost on me what we had on that set. I had been on enough sets at that time, and even on enough sets outside of that while we were doing it, that I realized how special what we had was. So I would have loved for it to just go on a little bit longer. Maybe sometimes that's the best time to say goodbye, before you do get sick of it. It seemed like the proper time for us, we got a full 6 seasons. It seemed like a good time for us to wrap it all up, or maybe not.
It's been almost 20 years since the first season came out.
Oh my God, has it really? That's my teeth getting longer. I'm so grateful that it's the job that still to this day most people want to come up and talk to me about. It seems like new people are still discovering the show, and I'm so grateful that it's going to be on Netflix because I think so many new folks are going to get a chance to discover the show. I think what's great about it is that, and I love that we have these complicated narratives in these days with these really morally ambiguous characters and a lot of heavily serialized shows. There is that kind of hole in the marketplace where people want to see blue skies programming, where they come to these reliable characters that they know they're going to have a great adventure with, that they know they have these great relationships with, and they're going to have a good time, and at the end of the day, hopefully everything's going to be okay. And if not, we're going to have to wait till next season to see if it is. White Collar, now on Netflix.